the bowl game, uh, most fans kind of wanted to get it over with and start the new era, the Brian Kelly era at LSU. But the the big reason uh, we lost that game was a lot of it because roster management issues. We only had about 40 scholarship players, and Kansas State had about 60 to 70. So that's a big disadvantage. So Brian Kelly's got a lot of work to do to rebuild this roster, and some guys that made some plays. Pick Cage, he was a young guy transferred from Nickel State in the FCS, and he came in. I think he had 4 tackles for losses and a sack, so he kind of made some plays. And then on the last play for LSU, Chris Hilton had a 75-yard touchdown. He's a freshman high 4-star from Zachary, Louisiana. So even though it wasn't the best bowl game as entertainment for LSU fans, I think we had some young guys make plays and set themselves up to have a good year next year with Brian Kelly.
Okay. Yeah, and speaking of Brian Kelly assembling the staff, where do we stand there?
I think we're almost full. We have a wide receiver coach still left to fill, so we'll see what happens with that. But I think he's built it pretty balanced on based on what you need to compete in the SEC West when you're at LSU. He has multiple Louisiana guys that are coming in who can recruit the state. They know how to recruit the state. They have experience at LSU recruiting in Louisiana. And we also have a lot of NFL experience. He's bringing some guys in all over the NFL. Some of the guys from, I think it's Minnesota. I think we brought somebody in from Kansas City. So he's getting some NFL experience on the roster too. And he's also getting a lot of people with play calling experience, which is a big advantage to have, position coaches that have called plays before and know how to run a defense or offense, even though they're only controlling one position group. And lastly, lots of SEC experience. Our defensive coordinator, who is he was the defensive coordinator for Kentucky, and now he's the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. So, he has a lot of experience, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Or he was the linebackers coach at the Chiefs, not defensive coordinator. And our offensive line coach, he was with us this past year, and he was our interim head coach throughout the bowl season, and everyone's really excited about him. He's got a lot of potential, and he's from Louisiana, so that just makes it even better. And Frank Wilson coming back at running back coach. He's known to be the best Louisiana recruiter ever. He recruited Leonard Fournette, Tyrann Mathieu, etc. So he's a really big get for Brian Kelly coming back here. And lastly, Mike Denbrock comes in from Cincinnati, and obviously they got into the playoffs this year, and his offense was pretty effective all year until they played Alabama. And the talent difference between Cincinnati and Alabama is pretty significant. So that might have been why they didn't fare so well. But I still think Mike Denbrock's a really big get. And Brian Kelly does have a history with him. He was his offensive coordinator at Notre Dame for a couple of years, and he ended up going to Cincinnati. And I think Brian Kelly always wanted to kind of go back to that since he left. It's been rumored that he really wished he would have kept him on staff at Notre Dame. So it only makes sense for him to come to LSU and bring him with him.
Looking at Mike House's credentials, his last year at Kentucky, 2018, they had one of the best defenses in the country. They beat Penn State in the Citrus Bowl that year and had a truckload of NFL talent that's making plays at that level right now. We got Noah Long on the line talking LSU football. So recruiting, transfer portal, the 247 sports rankings are at number 19 right now in this 2022 class, number 8 in the SEC with 13 signees. So I would think that there's still some room to bring in a few more before the February deadline.
Yeah, we currently only know of, 3 real major, targets for LSU as far as recruiting goes, and, I think you look at, Trevante Citizen out of Lake Charles. He's a great running back, top 150 player, I think. But, yeah, I think we have a good chance of landing him, but I think Florida's pushing too, so we're gonna have to wait and see on that. And obviously, five-star safety Jacoby Matthews, really need to get him, but Florida, A&M, Bama, all pushing for him too. So we'll see on him, but I'm hopeful that he'll decide to stay in Louisiana. And lastly, Danny Lewis, tight end out of Westgate, and he's currently committed to Cincinnati, but a lot of people think he's going to flip with Denbrock coming in and him being from Baton Rouge or Lafayette. So it only makes sense that he would try to bring him with him. And then, so if say we do get those three guys, you have all those extra spots, so you end up with 16, and then you already have the +7. So I think you then get nine extra spots for transfer portal along with the +7. So it could be a really big year for Brian Kelly in the transfer portal. And he said he didn't necessarily want to do that, but he didn't really have a choice. And we saw what Michigan State has done with using the transfer portal. So I think it's definitely a viable option and something LSU really needs to do because next year fans are going to expect to compete and at least win 8 or 9 games. And right now, looking at the roster, you're not close to that because you got to build some ground that was really messed up over the past 2 years by Coach O losing a lot of guys to transfer portal, not filling out the class as he should, other things like that. So yeah, I think transfer portal is going to be huge for LSU this year. Look for them in a lot of the races for these big prospects coming in.
Yeah. So, are there any particular positions, or is it
Oh yeah,
just a need all over the place?
I think besides, I still think you bring in a fourth quarterback in my opinion, but pretty much every position, mainly defensive back and linebacker, because you know Stingley's going to the draft, Eli Ricks is going to Alabama, Flott is going to the draft. So you got three starters leaving right away, and you have to fill every position. So I think we're definitely going to look in the transfer portal for corners and linebackers too. Damone Clark going to the draft. He was probably our best player this year, so that's a big hole to fill. So yeah, we're kind of just going to have to wait and see. I think the recruiting break, the dead period, I think it ended last night after the championship game. So we're going to see a lot more transfers really going on probably this week.
Miles Brennan, of course, took over for Joe Burrow, and he was originally a four-star and waited to take his time to be the starting quarterback there at LSU. 12 touchdowns in his first 3 games. Then he got hurt, lost the job, tried the transfer portal, but it didn't work out for him. So he's back.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait and see on him just because of his injury record. It's going to be hard to really see or really bank on him staying healthy all of next year to bridge to the next quarterback. So I'm not really sure. I think we probably need to bring in another transfer quarterback just to be safe and give somebody to compete with Miles for the starting spot next year.